Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsanin ila yawm ad-din wa sallama tasliman kathiran amma ba'd. We praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala abundantly the way He deserves to be praised. We ask Allah to exalt the mention and grant peace and send His salutations upon the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. Astaghfirullah. Alright, well today we're going to be addressing and reacting to one of the most feminine callers to Islam in the da'wah field. And I've realized after observing and watching the videos, besides this fascination of acting like a woman and sounding like a woman or like a homosexual, because anytime he wants to, as you will see, anytime he wants to show you what his opponents are saying, they're always some like, you know, homosexual man or some transgender of some sort or some person whose identity we cannot identify. And like his favorite videos is when he gets to release his inner self and the feminine inside him, the feminine qualities and traits inside him get to go on full display for us to observe and learn from the ultimate da'i who has not left anything under the sun that he hasn't fought with, right? Rightfully and unrightfully. Like, okay, you were cool when you were, you know, against the liberalists and the feminists and the secularists, and we were, you know, we're like, all right, you know, you got something going on. Then dude went all out, became Iranian madkhali bootlicker, and I'm using the term madkhali not to endorse it, rather Sheikh Rabi' al-Madkhali has nothing to do with this. Actually, let me take it back. You became an Iranian bootlicker, an anti-Arab, discrediting the Arabs, and you know, our Levantine, the people from Levant, such as myself, we are fake Arabs. You know, how Iranian can you get? Pro Rafida, pro Khamenei, pro Khomeini, pro Hassan Nasrallah, pro Hizbullah, pro everything that is Shi'i and Iranian, and against everything that is Syrian, Sunni, Orthodox, Athari. Like, how bad can one expose himself within the span of a couple of weeks or a couple of months? And I called it out by Allah's grace and mercy the day you called Sheikh Sulaiman al-Ruhaili and Sheikh al-Suhaimi and Sheikh Salim al-Tawil. The day you called them government agents, I knew that your end was going to be horrible. Insha'Allah, bi'idhnillah, your end will be horrible. It will be an expose of the highest order. Not like you clowns, where you fetch for something for my personal life, something that I've spoken about, something that I've repented from, something that I've deleted from the internet, but y'all kept copies of it for your convenience. Not this kind of expose that Allah is going to expose you regarding your own personal life. I seek refuge with Allah that happens to you or to any Muslim on earth, because that is not from Islam. You will be exposed on your religion, on your views, on your aqidah, on your abandonment of whatever it is that you will abandon from Islam eventually. Because that's just the end of every jabbarin anid, every stubborn, arrogant person like yourself who belittles the people of knowledge, whose flesh is poisonous and speaks ill of them, and is against Ahl Sunnah while claiming that he is of Ahl Sunnah, who supports the Rafidi, even though he claims that he actually has problems with the Rafidis. Your end is going to be exactly as it has been expected, for having violated all of these things that you should not have violated, especially when we have advised you many times on many occasions from multiple people throughout those years, and you don't repent, and you don't change, and you double down. And it's amazing. I find it absolutely amazing that there's a unanimous agreement among every person that dealt with you that you are one of the biggest liars they have seen, that you are a liar. Jake, your ex-friend, called you a liar. Sajid called you a liar. I've called you a liar a million times. I've caught you lying a million times. Shamsi has called you a liar. I cannot think of any name. Now, some of the people you've beefed with are deviant, no issue. Some of the people you've debated with are kuffar, no issue. But even those people, and we are told to stand with the truth, even if it's against ourselves. So as Muslims, we have to be on the side of justice. Even those people that are kuffar, when they called you out for your lies, they were pretty accurate. So you are a flamboyant liar of the highest order. So where are you gonna go? Where are you going to go? Look, the last this Haqiqat show, which should really be called the Rafidi show, the Iranian love story show, whatever you want to call it. You ran for so long, 3 hours, 4 hours of you yapping and yapping, waiting for the super chats, waiting for these gullible, ignorant people to give you $15 and $20, $100 so you could read some dumb comment of theirs. A money-making mechanism where you become rich on the expense of the ignorant and the fools, the foolish, taking full advantage of them, not offering them anything substantial. You're not giving any courses. It's not like it's one of your courses or a proper learning that they acquire. No, you just yap for hours on end, and people pay you money so you can continue ranting. And the amount of blunders that you disseminate within those hours are, wallahi, we cannot even count them. They cannot be enumerated. And if I were to dissect these videos, then I would be here for the rest of my life. But today, I found something interesting that I wanted to comment on because it shows what an ignorant liar you are, because you have no aqidah that is related to Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah in any way, shape or form. You are not athari, even if you were to swear by Allah for the rest of your life. You have nothing to do with Athariyya and Salafiyya. You are a closeted Deobandi. And I could say more than that, but I would fear Allah before I say something and wind up slandering you. But what is inevitable is that you are a Deobandi sympathizer. And that's something that you've made known to the people. And you've promoted their courses on your Telegram. So you are okay with the Deobandi or the Maturidi or the Ash'ari approach to Aqidah. But first of all, I apologize to the audience who have to deal with the amount of cringe when a person laughs through his nose and snorts literally every 3 seconds. Like every 3 seconds speaks and you have to go through this again and again. Uqsum billah, you want your monitor to explode before you have to see this person again. But نحتسب الأجر عند الله, and we'll be patient for the sake of Allah, because hey, somebody has to call him out. So here he's dealing with some of the beef he's had with Jake. And after they had debated with each other, I guess they fell out just like everybody else. Surprise! Danielle cannot keep any friends anywhere on planet Earth. Sajid was his close friend. They had videos together. Not anymore. Jake was his friend. They had videos together. Not anymore. And the rest of the people that he no longer associates with or communicates with or has any has problems with is just a very despicable individual, and you just can't maintain any relationships when you are a despicable liar. It's just the way it is. I mean, these are things that you have to realize, because al-kadhib yahdi ila al-fujur, because lying will lead to fujur, when you become defiantly disobedient. And that would inevitably lead to the fire. So anyways, without any further ado, let's comment a little bit on this Haqiqat show.
Oh, you're getting a taste of your own medicine. Really? Am I
yes.
getting a taste of my own medicine?
Yes, you're getting a taste of your own medicine.
The things that I criticize compassionate
Of course, now I don't know if you've ever watched any caller to Islam use the hand gestures in this feminine way as much as our friend over here. It's really like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
imams for is like when they say, yeah, we need to change.
Now, anytime he's going to emulate someone, it has to become basically a feminine man. Effeminate man. That's what it is.
Change the Sharia law when it comes to family. I attack or criticize imams who say, yeah, Muslims need to support gay marriage. I criticize these compassionate imams when they say things like, yeah, we need to change the concept of qiwama, you know, the authority of men in marriage. We need to change that and modify it for our modern times. We need to have a reform of Islamic law. You know, we need to actually.
Now, here's the thing. Here's something very specific, something very important that you need to know about this guy, Danny. Danny is famous for finding any individual, let's say any given individual will say something, and then he labels this individual, or in his mind, this individual belongs to this group. Let's say he calls them madkhalis. Then he will deceive his innocent, gullible, foolish followers by saying, madkhalis say, madkhalis believe, and then he will show you a screenshot of some random anonymous individual that sometimes nobody knows. Absolutely nobody knows. And that, if you were intelligent enough, you would not fall for that. But that is his deceptive way of misguiding you. So let's say an individual from the Madakhila said, yes, if it were up to the ruler, you should be killed because you're a Khariji. All right? Let's say that was an individual of an individual. Now, next time he makes a video, you say, madkhalis say that I'm a Khariji who should be killed. But you do know, and all of you know, that the so-called madkhalis, he's called anybody who doesn't agree with him as a madkhali. Even Jake, who might have nothing to do with Rabi' al-Madkhali, never associated with him, never did anything with him, he still becomes a madkhali because he's not on his page. If you're not a takfiri khariji, then you're a madkhali, basically. If you're not on his camp, you are on the madkhali camp. That's just the way it works. So he will call out these names, or he will exaggerate and he will generalize when this generalization is not fit. So one imam, he finds some random imam who says, you know, that LGBT should be this or LGBT should be that, and then he will tell you that it will make you feel like all of these compassionate imams, which we have a problem with, but supposedly all of them feel the same way. Be careful of this very, very disgusting habit of Danny Boy.
Actually, polygyny, like a man having multiple wives, that's haram. That's what I'm criticizing people for. Like this kind of overt, deliberate, in-your-face changing of the deen, like in a way that no one accepts. There's no valid ikhtilaf on it. There's no valid ikhtilaf on it. Those are the things that I call out imams for, as you can see on the channel. You know,
what is funny? Why are you always laughing at your own nonsense?
Destroying gender roles in Islam.
I guess the longer the stream, the more money he makes. So he just lags and drags. Like, do you see how many times he repeats himself? And do you realize that this guy's supposed to be a graduate from Harvard or somewhere, and he doesn't know how to use a computer? He's always struggling to figure out the sound, always struggling to share a screen, like anytime he wants to show you something, it takes him like 2 to 3 minutes of silence where he's just like going around in circles, and then he's like, oh, it didn't work. Oh, that's not happening. Like, dude, you don't know how to use a PC? You don't know how to use a laptop? Like, aren't you supposed to be qualified for these basic things, right?
Right. These are the things that I'm criticizing these imams for. Liberalizing Islam.
Okay.
That's very different than what Jake is doing to other.
Jake is doing. I can't even copy that stuff. It just feels too gay to even behave like this.
They're Muslims. Not only me, but others that he's attacking. What I am arguing on the basis of are things that there is no ikhtilaf on number one. There's no legitimate
Wait, it's lagging. Let me pause it so that it doesn't lag.
disagreement, difference of opinion on, like should Muslims go and support LGBT? Like, there's no legitimate difference of opinion.
Yeah,
on
man,
this.
stop.
It's just people
beating a
who
dead
are
horse.
liberals and reformists have put this out while wearing a kufi or wearing a turban and saying, "Yeah, this is Islam now." And they pushed that out for how many years? 7 years, pretty much, before some of them retracted.
All right.
And they never apologized. Everything else that we cover on Muslim Skeptic and Hayrat Show, those are things that like, liberalism is not
Is that Chinese?
about a difference of opinion. Liberalism, like, I want you guys to understand this because you're watching Hayrat Show. Maybe some of you are longtime fans. But liberalism is not like an okay opinion in Islam. Like, when I say liberalism, what do I really mean? People have this, they think that liberalism means like someone who is like a Muslim who listens to music. A Muslim who listens to music, this is liberalism. We need to go to war.
Okay, this is minute 137:27. 137:27. I'm going to come back here. Meanwhile, the irony of all ironies. Meanwhile, that's not music. All this guy claimed that this is not music. I don't want to play it longer because it's just we can't play music. It's lagging. All right. Mussab, okay, here we go. So, I don't understand. Can any two people on planet Earth disagree that this, what you just heard in the beginning of the show, was music? Forget about how they came about. Forget about the process in which they arrived, the process they followed, in which they arrived at this end result. The end result is undeniably, unquestionably, music. Whether you used sounds of people screaming, people, I don't know. I don't even understand. How could anyone have second doubts that this was music, what you just heard seconds ago? And I think at some point somebody called him out and he said, no, this is not music. This is using kind of vocals and I don't know what they use, kind of some sort of mixer to come up with this, and supposedly it's not music. This is exactly what the Hadith in Bukhari says. The Hadith in Bukhari, and I have a lecture on this. I have a lecture on this titled "The Classical Hit It's Bad." It says that there will be people, they will seek to make permissible. They will seek to make permissible, and among them is music and musical instruments. يستحلون الحرى والحريرة والخمر والمعازف. They will find a way to claim it is halal. How? Exactly like this guy is doing. By doing all kinds of twisting and turning and tell you, no, we didn't use any musical instruments. This was pure vocals. But the end result was absolute music. And if you ask a child, what are you listening to? He will tell you, I hear music. Is he going to be able to decipher and break down and understand how you reach that point? No. So the end result is music. Otherwise, according to this logic, only sculpturing an idol is haram. But if you made a machine that when you press a button, it brings down in 1 second an idol, a statue, then it's halal. According to you, that should be halal. because nobody spent a long time, sculpturing it. The reality is, it doesn't matter what method you use. What we are concerned about is the end result. And the end result is unquestionably music. And that is just wild.
Is like a Muslim who listens to music. A Muslim who listens to music, this is liberalism. We need to go to war on this.
We need to go to war, yes. Yes, go to war against yourself and stop the hypocrisy.
These Muslims that are listening to music, and this is like a huge, these are the liberals, or the Muslim women that aren't wearing hijab. These are the liberals. We have to go to war with these Muslim women that are not wearing hijab. This is a misunderstanding, actually. This is a misunderstanding of what I mean when I say liberalism and what I have been preaching.
I don't have time for this, but
wearing hijab, that might be just a personal shortcoming. But they don't believe that it's halal. Change the deen. It's not good, and we should do it fitly and explain. We should understand their context. We have to do that. Like
something that he's never done, man. If you see how vile and disgusting he is against any of these people that might have fallen into that shortcoming, he cuts them absolutely no slack. But now, of course, you have to put on a different face.
Levels of iman, and you have to have the brotherhood, or
the brotherhood that we are not entitled to. We are scums. We are Zionist agents. We are government agents. We are paid agents. We are here. Our job, madkhalis, quote unquote, bootlickers, to secularize the people, to remove Islam. We are the enemies of Islam. All of these are words that have been used against us. Donkeys, dogs, bulldog, everything, right? He's used all of these terms against Sunni Muslims who get absolutely no mercy from him. But when it comes to the enemies of Allah and the Shia and the the other people, suddenly he becomes a puppy.
Your sister, the sisterhood, to help your brothers and sisters and lift them up. And you lift them up by advising them, by correcting them, by maybe sometimes you just influence them in the right
just like you do with us.
Direction, because a more direct approach might be ineffective. And you bring hikmah, you bring wisdom. That is...
You have none of that.
Perfect. We all need to do this. But that's not liberalism as I define it. That's not the big threat. That's not the big threat that we're facing. The threat that I've been calling out for over 12 years in public dawah, is liberalism, the ideology that religion has to be reformed. That is a massive problem the past 200 years with European colonialism throughout the Muslim world. And it is a bloody Muslims into atheists. This same project has been applied to other religious groups. Like the original have been at all more are less practicing of their religious. They are not only less practicing, they have deleted them. Their religions have been destroyed. And that's what's happening to Islam as well. It's not that, women are, not as many women are wearing hijab or more gender. Yeah, that's not good. That's not good. But if you look at Muslim history, there are different segments of time and places where Muslims are at different levels of practice. But Islam was preserved. It persevered. It persisted over time. Despite there being there's a lapse in one particular geographic of the problem. Yeah, you do islah. You go and you advise. You try to... and the ummah will survive. The problem is that liberalization is religious, own personal struggles and times, but that in itself is not good. It's not good, and we have to encourage those Muslim sisters do better, fine. But put that on one side. On the other side is a person that you might not even call a Muslim at that point who says, actually, it's my body, my choice. And I want to be equal to men, and it's my choice. I decide if I want to cover my hair or not. I don't care what God says.
I don't know where he finds those samples. I don't know where he finds the samples where a Muslimah whom he's already takfired basically says, I don't care what God says. I mean, again, not saying they don't exist, but if that's not exaggerating and generalizing, then I don't know what is.
I make my decisions as my body, my choice. Do you see the difference?
Yeah, we see the difference.
The second thing is kufr.
Kufr.
The second thing is a deletion of Islam
Kufr.
and the Sharia and the requirements of God. The first scenario is like a personal failing. It's like a personal challenge, a personal sin. And there's a lot of hope for that person that they... Do you see the difference? The liberalism...
I want to get to the juicy stuff when he starts speaking about Aqidah.
No, your body belongs to Allah.
Yeah, cut through the nonsense, bruv.
So do you get it? Do you get the difference? So when I criticize the compassionate imams, is because they are justifying that second example. They're justifying the ideology underneath. I read line by line in 5 Sharia. But the things that some of these sectarians are arguing about, like when they're getting in endless debates on Aqidah, Ash'ari, Salafi, Maturidi, Athari, whatever, when they're arguing on those things, those are not, I'm not saying that they're not important to be discussed, but they're creating a war on those issues, and they're creating animosity and division amongst Muslims on the basis of these things, which, by the way, have been debated for 1,000 years.
All right, so here we're going to get into the hot topic right now. So here he's about to undermine the gravity of the essence of the religion. The essence of Islam is to know who Allah is and to worship Him accordingly. And that necessitates that you have a comprehensive, adequate, accurate, specific understanding of everything related to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being the deity. And that, as per the breakdown of the scholars, means you are familiar with Allah's lordship, Allah being the Lord, Allah being the one deserving of worship, and Allah having names and attributes that He described Himself with, and that the Prophet ﷺ described Him with in the Quran and the Sunnah. That is why we were created. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Allah did not create jinn and ins as in the Quran. I have not created jinn and ins except to worship me. So the fundamental objective of Islam is not to fight off liberalism or feminism or any of these. While they are important, it's actually understanding Aqidah and meeting Allah without having worshipped anyone along with Him. That is the purpose of creation. But here, Daniel, being the ignoramus that he is going to sweep this particular important topic under the rug. And it's amazing that he says, in my opinion, or I'm not saying, like, bro, who are you? Who in the world are you to speak on as an Islamic authority? You are a graduate of a secular university. You have no credentials in Islam. And if you do, you don't tell the world about them. Like, nobody knows. Can you really read Arabic? Can you understand Arabic? Or does your wife do all the translation for you? That every time when you listen to that video of Abu Ubaidah, before it was translated, did you understand what he was saying directly, or your wife had to sit next to you and spoon feed you the translation? Tell you this word means that, you're sitting there like a little baby. Oh, thank you. Like, do we know what you know and what you don't know? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. It's not something that you've made public or clear for the people to know your qualifications or your credentials, who you studied under, and what was the manhaj of your sheikh. In fact, whatever we do know of you is extremely dubious and problematic. It is association with extremists. and fundamentalists and radicalists and people that, I don't want to get you in trouble, but you know what I'm talking about. So what we do know is problematic. What we don't know is a problem, because we don't know what it is that you believe. So what are you talking about? Who are you to say that in your opinion this is more significant or a bigger problem than that? You are not a scholar in Islam. You're not even a student of knowledge in Islam. And you surely don't qualify to be a caller to Islam with this despicable behavior of yours. And the misrepresentation of Islam in every debate you've ever had with every lowly, subhuman you found online or in real life.
They have been debated and argued for 1,000 years.
MashaAllah alayk.
If Ash'ariism and the Ash'ari Aqidah was going to destroy the Ummah and lead the entire Ummah astray, it has had over 1,000 years to do so. It has had over 1,000 years to do so. So you debating it now is not more urgent than it was 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 300 years ago, 1,000 years ago.
So this is how you undermine and belittle the significance of Aqidah. By supposedly coming up with this. This is the problem with these philosophers and those who study philosophy and what they call logic, even though for the most part they are as far away from logic as a person can be. So in his perception of things, had the Aqidah of the Ash'aris and the Maturidis been a problem, then it would have been a problem for many years. Since we were able to live with them all these years, that means it's not an issue. So then, as per this principle, then we could say the same thing about the Shia. The Shia have been around for a long time, since Abdullah ibn Saba. Since Abdullah ibn Saba came about, that is found in the books of the Shia, who they acknowledge and they say he's not a fictional character, he's a real character. And so if it was going to be a problem, then it would have been a problem all these years. So it's not urgent to deal with it. What kind of logic is this? When Allah says, فَمَاذَا بَعْدَ الْحَقِّ إِلَّا الضَّلَالِ, what is after the truth except deviance? After the truth, there's nothing but deviance. So your job and my job and every Muslim's job is to seek the truth. Not to say, since we were able to, then according to you, there's been kufr since Islam was around. Since the time of the prophets and the messengers before the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, throughout the advent and the life of the Prophet ﷺ, and afterwards, there's always been disbelievers. So, since we all have managed to exist until now, then also that we shouldn't be given da'wah to the non-Muslims, because why make this an issue now when we've survived it for 1,000 years? Hundreds of thousands of years. What kind of logic is this?
If Salafism, in the sense of the Athari Aqidah, whether you want to say that's the Aqidah of Ibn Taymiyyah or the Aqidah of Imam Ahmed or combination thereof, even though there are significant differences.
Hey, ta'al. That shows you that this person has studied nothing of Aqidah. If anything, he's only read the books of the Ash'ari and the Maturidis. This particular point of contention, this particular point is only mentioned and exaggerated and created as a lie by the Ash'aris and the Maturidis against Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. These are the talking points of the deviant sects, because there's absolutely there's no difference between Aqidat Shaykh al-Islam Ahmad bin Hanbal and Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah alayhi rahmatullah. Ahmad bin Abdul Halim ibn Taymiyyah. There is absolutely no difference between them. So this whole idea that Ibn Taymiyyah came up with something different than Imam Ahmad is actually found in the books of the Ash'ari. So either he studied the books of Ash'ari and he is a closeted Ash'ari and he cannot tell the people, or somebody, one of his team, because he has these people working for him that do all the research and do all the work, and they basically deliver it to him, and then he just sits there and he's a mouthpiece. He just has to articulate it. This is what he's being told. He actually never studied it. Either way, this is bring the evidence for this claim that Imam Ahmad's aqidah was different than Ibn Taymiyyah. What is it exactly that you said?
Combination thereof, even though there are significant differences. Whatever. If following that aqidah was going to lead the ummah astray, it would have done that 800 years ago, or 500 years ago, or 300.
And the ummah is astray, ya abit. Ya abit al-qarya. Ya hatib al-layl. The ummah is astray. Indeed. The big number of Muslims are involved in shirk and worshipping idols and worshipping dead people in the grave and worshipping stones and you know, the aqidah of a lot of the people is the aqidah of the Ash'ari. I'm not going to say the majority. And because of that, Allah has humiliated us and He has deprived us of honor, deprived us of victory that we were promised. Allah promised victory. And we haven't seen any significant victory in in hundreds of years. In hundreds of years. Because that difference and that deviance from the Athari Aqidah has materialized already. What do you expect, that Islam will be eradicated? It's not going to happen. We were promised that Islam will be until the end of time. Islam will be until the end of time. وَلَا تَزَالُ طَائِفَةٌ مِّنْ أُمَّتِي ظَاهِرِينَ عَلَى الْحَقِّ. There will remain a group of my ummah that will be ظاهرين. They will be known, identified, which are the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, the Salafis, upon the truth. لا يضرهم من خذلهم. They will not be harmed by whoever abandons them, أو خالفهم, or people that go against them and oppose them, until the hour is established. But we have seen the outcome of this already. We're living it.
100 years ago. So
you're literally claiming, right? You're saying with your own mouth that, you know, Muslims are being secularized and they're becoming atheists and they're becoming liberalists and they're becoming feminists and all of these. What do you think those are the consequence of what? Because you were not around to debate them back in the day, and you know you were gonna be the one whom Allah is gonna save the ummah through. What are you talking about? It's all a byproduct of not understanding the names and attributes of Allah. The reason why there is a feminist Muslimah is because she never understood the names and attributes of Allah. The reason why there's a liberalist, a secularist, is because they never understood the names and attributes of Allah. It's a byproduct of their ignorance of their Lord.
It's not urgent. Why is it not urgent? Because the majority of the ummah, the majority of Muslims have no clue like what these debates are about. Like they never come up. Like these kinds of debates on, well, what does this attribute of Allah, what does that really mean? And let's analyze that. The vast majority of Muslims, 99.99999% of the ummah, the thought never even occurred to them.
Wallahi, you are a liar. Wallahi alladhi la ilaha ghayruhu, you are a liar. 99.999% of Muslims this never occurred to them. They've never come across a discussion about the names and attributes of Allah. Really? I can't think of a Muslim in my circle that I know except that they've come across something of this nature. At least they're familiar with the fact that there's some people that affirm Allah has a face, Allah has a hand, Allah has eyes, and there's a group that denies that. So they are familiar with this nuance and this difference of opinion. You made them now 0 points. So we, the people who have been debating this, books have been authored from the Muslims that have been read by people throughout the years. All of us are 0.0000001%. Ya akhi, how much of a liar can you be? The problem is there's no one behind you to verify. There's nobody from your listeners who bothers to cross-check, to ask you for receipts for those exaggerated claims that you never bring any proof for. It's just your ignorance in full display.
And if they even studied it, They have studied it in the sense that, okay, this is what we believe. Okay, I accept that, without working it out for themselves, without analyzing it for themselves. Me personally, for example,
Who cares about you personally, for example?
I had no idea about these debates or these discussions. I read
We know because you're ignorant. You never studied Islam. Duh.
the Quran.
You were busy at Harvard learning philosophy.
I read many hadith before I realized that, oh, this is something that there's a debate about. Then I went and studied. I went and studied for a long time.
Oh, you gotta love the ambiguity. You gotta love the ambiguity. So Abu Musab, what are your qualifications that call it to Islam? I studied for a long time. Yeah? Where? A long time. On planet Earth. With who? With the shuyukh. Which ones? The ones that were in the masjid. Which masjid? The masjid that was in the street. Which street? The street which was in the city. Duh. Come on, stop being a useful idiot for the Zionists. Oh my God, you are a useful idiot for the Zionists. That's what this guy is calling intellectuals, people that actually studied and know Islam. We are considered to be useful idiots for the Zionists, and this fool over here gets away with this kind of nonsense. You know, I studied Islam for a long time.
And I realized that, well, for me,
for you, MashaAllah, Tabarak ar-Rahman, Shaykh al-Islam, Daniel Haqiqatu.
This is very interesting, but it gets to, when you go to a certain depth.
We're glad that it interested you.
Then I don't really see a benefit for me personally.
Because you are ignorant. There's no benefit for him personally. Oh, well, it's just the names and attributes of Allah. Not a big deal. Let's focus on finding an LGBTQ supporter so I can debate with him about, pedophilia, or about the Prophet's marriage to Aisha, or any topic that is very difficult for the non-Muslims to understand. And it is against wisdom to actually go out and speak about this in a debate. Not that we will shy away or become apologetic. I've spoken about the issue of Aisha way before you did. Way before you did. But there was a context and my audience was Muslims. And if I sit down with a non-Muslim, this is something that you discuss. But what we're supposed to do to the non-Muslims is deliver the message of Tawheed. Not pick those subject matters that are controversial in nature, difficult to explain, and that would leave a lot of loopholes that cannot be covered because you're underqualified from a religious point of view. You don't know the textual evidence from the Quran and Sunnah. You research for the issue a few hours before, a few days before, and you think that you're prepared. You're not prepared. This takes years of studying, years of attaining and sitting under the feet of the scholars, years of preparation, which you don't have under your belt. So to you, it's not a big deal. It's of no significant importance.
And yeah, there's a certain position that I adopt and I find most compelling.
Mufti Menk, the Iranian version. Mufti Daniel. Our problem with Mufti Menk is we don't know what the heck this guy believes, right? You cannot put a finger on the guy. The guy is all over the place. He speaks in he speaks to everybody. To the point that we say, look, man, you're a qualified person of knowledge. Aren't you supposed to share with the people the halal and the haram and the bid'ah and the sunnah and tawheed and shirk? No. He's too busy writing tweets, the Almighty, oh Almighty, my foot hurts. So when my arm becomes close to my foot, please do not let my arm hurt like my foot. Oh Almighty, oh please. And then, 700 billion likes and retweets or comments. And then this is our problem with Mufti Menk, is that he's unknown, majhul in this regard. And here's the compassionate imams that you clown, subhanallah, every one of them that you clown, even though some of them are deserving of that, but because of your transgression, you have fallen into the same trap. You have fallen into the same, we don't know. You find one opinion compelling, and obviously you're not going to share that with us, which is what Jacob has been calling you out for.
But beyond that, it's just above my pay grade. And I don't see this
Before
as
you even
necessary
delved into it, just for the record.
for being a good Muslim. So that's me doing all this.
He is the liberalist right there. Who decides who's the good Muslim and who's not the good Muslim? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Isn't this guy all about implementing Sharia? He's the first person to disavow Sharia. He's the first person to abandon Sharia, to set Sharia on the side. Because he is deciding, he is making an independent, subjective analysis and decision on this subject matter as being something that does not determine whether you're a good Muslim or not. So it is not the Quran and the Sunnah which determine whether you're a good Muslim or not. He does. He's using some external law that Allah did not reveal to decide what's a good Muslim and what's not. Exactly how the people treat Mother Teresa and Gandhi. Don't they consider them to be good people even though we as Muslims believe that they were wicked, evil people? Same thing. You're not any different than those people you're criticizing. You're actually not even countering or opposing liberalism now or feminism. You actually suffer from all of the things that you call the people out for. You are, you're tripping over feminists, you behave like one. You're tripping over liberalists, you're using their same principles. How are you different, mister?
This research. But for the vast majority of Muslims, you don't need to know exactly some of these details in order to be a Muslim, because the pillars of Iman are very clear what you need to believe in as a Muslim. The pillars of Iman, the 6 pillars of Iman that makes you a Muslim: believing in Allah.
Whoa! Ya akhi, look how you do it. Look at Allah. How can we deal with this? This is too much to deal with. So the 6 pillars of Iman, this is his basic, this is elementary level. And even on an elementary level, he exposed himself. Yeah, the first thing you said is to believe in Allah. What is it that you believe about? What do you believe about Allah when it comes to believing in Allah? This is the point of contention. Yeah, we are talking about the same rukn of Iman. The first rukn of Iman. And tu'mina billah. And tu'mina billah. How do you define belief in Allah? The Shia will tell you that their Imams control this world. The Shia will tell you, the 12ites, Ja'farites will tell you that the Imams control the world, and they tell you that they nu'min billah. And the Duruz, they say nu'min billah. Actually, if you speak to a Christian, an Arab Christian, he will tell you also nu'min billah. What differentiates this belief in Allah is what you actually believe about Allah in terms of the everything related to the essence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what kind of contradiction is this? What kind of contradiction is this? You're just saying that that's not important for your Iman because you have to believe in the 6 pillars of Iman. You begin by believing in Allah, but that falls under believing in Allah. This opinion that you found compelling and you're convinced with, which you did not share with us, is part of the belief in Allah. Fail. L.
The angels, the books, the messengers, the qadr of Allah, and the last day.
I'm surprised you know
the
that.
The last day. That's what you need to believe in.
MashaAllah alaik. MashaAllah.
And the vast majority.
The highest level of oversimplification right there, ladies and gentlemen and ladies.
They not only don't have the ability or the time, like they literally wouldn't be able to understand like some of these nuances or these distinctions.
But they will be able to understand your absolute non-stopping waffling and yapping about all kinds of technicalities when it comes to the feminists and the liberalists and philosophy and countering the Christians and all of the stuff that you've presented throughout the years. They all have the capability and the intellectual skills to understand that. But for whatever reason, they all become dumb. Everybody becomes dumb and underqualified when it comes to understanding their Lord. So they can understand your man-made speech, but they will not be able to understand the speech of Allah. Amazing, amazing. Keep digging the grave.
That's why you have like the Ash'ari position or you have the Athari position for 1,000 years. And look, we still have a ummah. We still have...
Ya Rabbi, lutfak wa afwak. Look, for 1,000 years we have the Ash'ari and Athari and we still have an ummah. Like, because supposedly because of this difference there would be no more ummah. Like, what do you think, Spi? You think we're gonna kill the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah are gonna kill the Asha'ira, or the Asha'ira are gonna kill the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah because of our variation or our difference in Aqidah? No. But you know who winds up killing the other for Aqidah matters? The Shia. The Shia has slaughtered plenty of Sunnis in the name of Allah. You see the irony? And that is what you call for unity with. You call to unity with those people, and you're wondering how the Ummah has survived the difference between the Asha'ira and the Atharis.
We still had a khilafah. We had these major institutions, these madaris. We had this kind of economic dominance. We had military dominance. We had the golden ages of Islam. Quote unquote golden ages, because obviously the golden age was the time of the Salaf. But we had,
which you have nothing to do with.
Had, centuries of Islamic prosperity, Muslim prosperity, without having these questions resolved, without having these debates resolved.
Those questions have been resolved, and those debates have been resolved, and the truth has been made. If you accept it, then that doesn't change anything. Just like you give da'wah to a feminist and she doesn't accept it, that doesn't mean that the job of delivering the truth to the feminist did not take place. It has been resolved. If someone is stubborn, that's on them.
Isn't that interesting? But as soon as liberalism comes onto the scene, as soon as secularism comes onto the scene, then it's chaos. Then we have Muslims being genocided. We have Muslims being subjugated. We have Muslim lands being conquered and dominated. Suddenly we have many Muslims who are leaving Islam, or who have become completely detached from practicing the Sharia, who no longer even believe in it, applying the Sharia, who no longer even believe in the concept of Islamic governance or a Khalifa, who believe in the provisions of Islamic law. Suddenly, we have this huge amount of deviance that's not affecting like one or two people. It's a cancer that's affecting countless Muslims.
Same talking points of Nu'man Ali Khan, another person that you've called out and criticized. Way back in the day, he said the same thing. Why discuss Aqidah when the Muslims are dealing with drugs and alcohol and I don't know what, and atheism? So what has changed? Same exact talking points. Birds. You birds belong to each other with the same ideology and the same approach to Islam.
The vast majority of Muslims. Do you see the difference in scale? The difference in scale between, the challenge of liberalism, secularism, Aqidah debates. Again, Aqidah debates are great.
They're great.
Just as long as they're not serving as a tool of sectarianism, a tool of divide and conquer, a tool of let's fight against each other when our families are falling into kufr.
The families fall into kufr because of misunderstanding who Allah is, not having learned who Allah is. Those who know Allah will never go astray.
With this, and unfortunately you have like a religious class that have been trained to just exacerbate sectarianism along these lines. And I can't tell you the amount of times that I go and meet with someone and they say, "Oh, Daniel, great job, you're doing great work, I like your debates, blah blah blah."
Great job, great work, I like your debates, blah blah blah. You should have just said the blah 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 part.
You really need to study kalam.
Kalam.
You really need to.
What is kalam? Please, Daniel, please educate your miskeen audience. What is kalam? There's kalam. If you're I don't know if this is a Iranian Persian accent Kalam. Calamity. Kalam.
Get into, you need to study Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, or you need to study, Kalam.
You're not qualified or not fit to really study anything about Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah. Shouldn't even say his name.
Or both sides say this, right? Both sides say this. I say, oh, okay, why is that? First of all, in my head.
Of course, you would say that because you're an arrogant prick. You're never gonna take advice or guidance from anyone. You're too smart for everybody. Everybody's just below you in understanding. You're the only genius Allah created. Everybody else is just a useful idiot.
I'm thinking, okay, you assume that I haven't studied this.
Yes, rightfully so. We assume that you haven't studied this because there's no evidence to the contrary. And because everything you say proves that you haven't studied.
You're being condescending, but okay.
You're being condescending. You are the king of being condescending. There isn't anyone that you haven't humiliated. Even people on Twitter, you call them donkeys and dogs. Please, spare us the hypocrisy, please.
I'll put that aside, that you're making such a statement. But okay, yeah, why? Why do I need to study these books from 500 years ago or these debates? Why are they so critical? They're like, well, these debates, this methodology, this is how you can address our situation today. I'm like, oh, really? And then I ask them for an example, and inevitably they can't give me an example about how these debates.
All he does is he just made two types of advisors. One was an Ash'ari who told him you need to study Kalam, and then one was a Salafi who told him you need to study the works of Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah so you could have proper Aqidah, because apparently if you're Deobandi, that means you're Ash'ari or Maturidi, and if you are, then you are deviant. You are an absolute deviant. Unquestionably, you are a deviant. So people are trying to get him on their camp, and then being the arrogant person that he is, like, forget both of you. Who are you to tell me what to do or what to study? Why are you assuming that I didn't study? Blah, 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 blah.
Debate specifically within this tradition of Aqidah debate, how it's relevant to Zionism.
How is it relevant to Zionism? I'll tell you how. They said nobody was able to give an example. I don't know who these people that he was speaking with are. And I'm really baffled at the allegation that none of them were able to give him an example. Because we could sit here and give you 100,000 examples of how, if you fail in understanding the nuances in the belief of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah regarding the names and attributes of Allah versus the belief of the people of Aql versus the people of Naql, and that reminds me of the other guys who say Akil and Nakil, right? All of you belong in the same camp. All of you who cannot pronounce the Ain letter, please just stop giving da'wah. Any one of you who has a YouTube channel, has any type of presence in the da'wah world, and you haven't bothered to figure out how to pronounce a letter that Allah made humans able to pronounce, please stop giving da'wah. If you cannot say aqidah, don't speak. Don't come around saying akida. La mu akida. I remember those Deobandis from Bradford, right? The two funny guys. This guy, same thing. Inkar, munkar, kafir, umadri ish. Please, yani ma'alish, make some effort to pronounce the Arabic words as they ought to be pronounced. Just like the non-English speakers, those whose English is not their mother language, should make an effort to sound standard, to speak standard English. Doesn't have to be American accent, doesn't have to be British accent, but at least that people comprehend it and the word is supposed to be pronounced. This is part of the qualifications that you need to have as a caller to Islam. And the pressure on you non-Arabic speakers is greater, because Arabic is the language of the Quran and the Sunnah. So it's on you to learn it. Even if I failed in learning English, or another da'i, his English is not that great, but he's well versed in Arabic and he's able to more or less translate to the best of his ability, it's manageable. Even if his accent is bad. But for you, no, you're just asked to say a few Arabic words and you can't even bother to say them properly. Just be quiet already. Get off the internet. Seriously. Until you have learned how to say the harful ayn. So I could give you a million examples of why and how this is relevant to today. Not understanding and not knowing the difference between the people of aql and the people of naql. Because when you become an Ash'ari, that means you've already accepted the principle of giving precedence to your intellect over revelation. Guess what makes a person become a secularist? And guess what makes a person become a feminist? And guess what makes a person become any type of deviance or any deviant ideology today is when they set aside the Sharia and they think that they are too smart for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam. That is exactly how they go astray. It's about the principle. The principle of giving precedence to your intellect over the textual evidence. You not submitting fully to the textual evidence is the door of all evil. This is why you are a takfiri khariji. Because you also have fallen into the trap of giving precedence to your aql over the naql. We've told you a million times that the Prophet ﷺ told you how to deal with the ruler, how to deal with the people in charge, that you shouldn't criticize them publicly, you should take them on the side and advise them privately. And this is what the text says. But in your little brain, it doesn't add up and it doesn't make sense. And munkar. And so this is your basic level, you know, one hadith, من رأى منكم منكرا فليغيره بيده فإن لم يستطع فبلسانه فإن لم يستطع في قلبه وذلك أضعف الإيمان. That's the only hadith that you know. And you probably can't even recite it in Arabic. And you're sitting here making a fuss because you are a byproduct of not having the proper aqidah, ya ta'ban. And so is every feminist out there who thinks that Allah does not know enough, does not know better. And so Allah revealed a religion that was misogynistic, a religion that was in favor of men over women. That's how, funny guy. Because why is there a difference between Atharis and Ash'aris? It's by principle. And they ask any scholar. They will tell you because as Salafis, they give precedence to the revelation over their intellect, and the Ash'aris, they give precedence to their intellect over the revelation. That's why. Surprise, dude, surprise. But none of them had an answer for you.
It's relevant to atheism, or not atheism, but like feminism, or liberalism, or secularization. Or the question of like, you have people who are denying the Quran because they don't understand how Allah can give permission to the husband to physically discipline his wife.
Yes, and those are the people that give precedence to their intellect over the revelation, and those are the Ash'aris, and those are the people that you're trying to act like it's all good about. In your face, buddy.
They can't understand that. They can't grasp that. And so they reject the Quran, or they reject hadith because there's a hadith about, you know, the intelligence of men versus women. They can't understand. They reject the sunnah. So what specifically within these aqidah debates addresses that? Aqidah. There's nothing. There's nothing. You can only make it very generic, like, well, this tradition gives you mantiq, like logical reasoning. That's how it's relevant. That's a stretch. That's a stretch. You can learn logic, and you can learn that without going into any of these books. They in fact teach them, they teach logic in the university and logical analysis in the secular universities. Oh, so yeah, everybody should just go to a secular university and learn logic from there. MashaAllah alayk. Great advice. So I thought you were against secular universities though, no? So, it's okay for the brothers, not okay for the sisters. You're against women getting an education university, no problem. You're okay for the men to go to a mixed university and learn? So according to you, only men are expected to learn logic and therefore understand aqidah matters, but women are to remain ignorant all the time unless her mahram teaches her. So, but the point is that because they have studied it, Like, you know, this expression, like, if you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Like, if you have a hammer,
I do have a hammer, and you do look like a nail.
every problem looks like a nail. They have studied it. They've dedicated their life to it. Therefore, they think everything can be solved with their specialty, what they have studied and they have poured over for years. And
It goes right back to you. And you are exactly what you are accusing us of. So your specialty, what you studied, was countering feminism and liberalism and secularism, and you think that the solution is through that. You see, everything that you accuse others of, you are already guilty of by default. So what makes your opinion and your position better than ours? We studied Aqidah and we believe that solving Aqidah will solve the problem. You studied how to counter those deviant ideologies and you believe that that is the solution. What makes you think that yours is better? Right.
And their debates that they've engaged in for years, and that's a blind spot. That's a bias.
It's a bias. By Allah, the debates that happen between Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, where they quote the book of Allah and quote the Sunnah of Allah's Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, or the debates that you've had with all the losers in the world, where all you do is show them the research you've done on Wikipedia. Are you kidding me? So you're giving precedence to your and importance to your lousy, filthy, disgusting, trash debates that you've had with trash people, literally trash people, like people that you can't even find in the trash. People that people throw outside the trash in order not to get the trash dirty. You find those people randomly somewhere and you debate them. And you think your debates are targeting and addressing more important topics than the one that happens between a Salafi and an Ash'ari when they discuss the names and attributes of Allah from the Quran and the Sunnah? Please. Danny boy, please.
So the people are going to really hate this. They're going to clip this for sure.
Oh yeah, we're going to clip this for sure, ya ma'affin.
But I'm being honest with you.
MashaAllah, as long as you're being honest, we really appreciate it. Honest Dan. We know. I agree. I gotta give you that. Because Allah commands justice. Yes, it's one of the very few times you were honest. Considering what a big liar you are, I have to give it to you. Thank you for being honest once in your life.
And I want to, if I'm wrong, prove me wrong. Say that
I proved you wrong. And I challenge you to prove me wrong.
I'm wrong. Shouldn't be that hard.
Usually you're a lot more confident. Your body language and your statements denote that you know that you're wrong. You know that you're waffling and lying right through your teeth.
Yeah, and
that's why you suddenly became humble. Oh, well, if I'm wrong,
those debates, great. Study those books, have those discussions, get into those back and forth arguments, but never think that that's really the main thing that's causing problems for the ummah today. That's an objective question that you can answer objectively. Like, what really is causing the most doubts?
Yeah, guys, forget about the mashayikh, forget about the senior scholars. Obviously, they're all agents of the government. None of them are reliable. The entirety of the Muslim world in terms of scholars are sellouts, except Al-Hasan al-Didu and a couple of other scholars that he affiliates with, and everybody else is a sellout. Don't listen to the scholars, right? By the way, his very Sheikh al-Didu has hours of discussion on the Aqidah of the Asha'ira and Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah and the Atharis, and he discusses those. Even though he's deviant, he discusses those matters in detail. So either the Sheikh also doesn't know he should be addressing liberalism and secularism and the other issues, or he's discussing the matters that are important and then you're going against him. So we shouldn't listen to anybody, including Ad-Didu. Take your knowledge from the one and only Daniel. Ayatullah Daniel.
What is causing the most Muslims to leave Islam or to become disillusioned with Islam? Like, what ideologies objectively are being pushed by the foreign powers who want to dominate the Muslim world? Which ideologies are being pushed in order to lower the birth rate within the Islamic world. Like there's a Athari Aqidah or Ash'ari Aqidah or Maturidi Aqidah. So, and my rule is very simple. Like you have these.
What matters is your rule. Everybody, please. Everybody, pay attention. Take the rule of Daniel. Ayatullah. Daniel has a rule for the Ummah. Ummat al-Islam. Listen attentively to your Sheikh as he gives you the rule. تفضل يا مولانا الشيخ. تفضل.
These are positions that have such a long and robust history of the Ummah in the Ummah. So if we lead to mass apostasy or mass deviance, they should have done it by now. It should have already had that negative impact by now.
The mass apostasy is a byproduct of those deviances. The mass apostasy, if there's a mass apostasy, it's an exaggeration, but the apostasies that do occur, and by the way, they occurred at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. You know that people apostatized at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and people also left Islam after the death of the Prophet ﷺ in huge numbers. So this is the fitna. This is the trial of Allah to His creation. There's always been people leaving Islam. There's always been people leaving Islam way before all of these other ideologies have become prevalent today, specifically feminism. So that's a refutation against you from an historical point of view.
But it hasn't, because these debates are not known or even understood by the average Muslim. Like the average Muslim doesn't even have the ability to understand some of these debates.
To speak about yourself. You don't have the ability to understand these debates. We understand. It's okay. We forgive you. We know that you're intellectually underqualified. It's okay though. Like
the expression that I always use.
Again, it's the amount of narcissism and egoism is painful. It's about him. It's about, brother, you are a Muslim, inshallah, but you're nobody. Please don't be fooled by your followers who every single I speak, I'm this perspective, but I'm I back it up with scholars that have said what I'm saying in English. So when we speak confidently, the Salafis, we have backup. Who is your backup? At least you might have some whom we don't know, which is really an issue.
Is that, again, I'm not downplaying these debates, but
you have already.
Like I have problems understanding human knowledge. Like I have difficulty.
Yasser Qadi version 2.0. Yasser Qadi, once he went to what university? Yale. He came out with doubts about the Quran and doubts about Islam, and he went through some really difficult times, and his whole aqidah was shattered, and he had to put the puzzles back together. Ladies and gentlemen, ladies, brothers and sisters, another manifestation of how when you deviate from the Quran and the Sunnah, you start having basic misunderstanding of, watch what he's going to say. You're not going to believe this.
Understanding my own knowledge and my own will.
Dude does not understand his own knowledge and his own will. What in the world are you saying? The 5-year-old child doesn't have a problem understanding his own mind and his own will.
How am I going to understand the knowledge and the will of Allah? I have difficulty understanding will and to do, take an action and will something. It's impossible. Like it's just mind-boggling to think.
What? You don't understand how you could will something? وَمَا تَشَاءُونَ إِلَّا أَن يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ. Allah gave us mashia. وَقُلِ الْحَقُّ مِنْ رَبِّكُمْ فَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيُؤْمِنْ وَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيَكْفُرْ. Say, this is the truth from your Lord. Whoever wills to believe can believe, and whoever wills to disbelieve can disbelieve. What is it that you cannot fathom and understand? What's so complicated about having a will?
Like, well, what does...
See how ignorant you are?
What am I actually doing when I reach out my hand or when I'm talking? Like, is it something in my, like, are thoughts forming in my brain or my soul? And then what's the interface between that?
Interface? What is this, an application? It's an operating system of a phone? Is this what you really think when you're on your own? Do you people understand who you're taking knowledge from? You know what Ibn Sirin said, that this knowledge is deen. So look, let one of you verify, let one of you look, identify, learn, search, check who he's taking his religion from. You're taking religion from someone who's, when he's sitting on his own, he starts thinking about, how is it that I have a will, and how does the thought come in my mind? Is it my soul? Then how do I move my hand? Children don't think this way, man. This is kindergarten thought process. Are you kidding me?
In the material world, and or like if you drive a car, you might be driving a car for miles and you don't ever think that, okay, I need to depress my foot this much in order to add this much gas to go this miles per hour. So
that thought process doesn't occur to you. So you what in the world are you saying, man?
I don't even understand my own thoughts.
That's your problem, Habibi. If you have a problem understanding your own thoughts, how are you cascading that on all Muslims? And because you are too dumb to understand your own thoughts, and therefore, according to your logic, how can you possibly understand the will of Allah? And therefore, why are you even studying Aqidah? That's exactly why you need to study Aqidah. Because if you studied Al-Aqidah Al-Wasitiyah, and specifically the Sharh of Shaykh Muhammad bin Salih bin Uthaymeen, which by the way I have taught on my channel, then you wouldn't have these problems. You would have zero problems. You would understand everything perfectly. But because you're ignorant.
I don't understand my own consciousness and my own will and my own knowledge. And then my mind was blown recently like some years ago, when I found out that there's this question of internal monologue. Have you heard of this? Internal monologue. Like, some people have an internal monologue where they hear themselves in their own heads, and they...
Mustafa, please go.
Can go back and replay a conversation and, internally think the words and talk. Basically, it's like an internal monologue. It's not like a voice that you hear like someone is talking to you, but you just have that. There's like a voice. Some people, I have that. Some people don't have that.
The dude has that. The dude has psychological problems, man. This is like a public exposure of all the psychological issues that you are suffering from, and you are proclaiming it to the world, and now everybody should know why you should not be taken seriously. Look, I have a lot more to say. Maybe I will do part 2, inshallah, because of there's a major lag. Also, I'll do the rest for now. Thank you for telling us that you have a issue, you have an internal monologue. Where you speak to yourself and you hear yourself and you have a conversation with yourself, that you're crazy, basically. Which is what we've known all along, by the way. Anyone who has seen you speak or seen how you behave, we already knew that you were crazy from day one. Like, it doesn't take a genius to figure it out. Thank you for acknowledging that you're crazy, and accordingly, be quiet. All right, be quiet and don't speak about Aqidah, and don't try to educate the Muslims. Fix your own problems first. Fix your own issues first. Right? I'm not talking about your personal life. Your personal life is your personal life. I'm talking about your religious knowledge. Go fix that first, and then you can come and speak to the Muslims. Inshallah, we will continue this with the second episode. Until then, الله المستعان، ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك، أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت، أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.